Okay, we are now live. So for those watching, thanks very much for joining us today. This is the We Are Careers show. My name is Chris Webb, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, meet Sabiha. Sabiha, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Chris. Hi, everybody. My name's Sabiha, and I work and specialise with working with young people, helping them land their next job faster. And I work internationally. That's my area of specialism. And we have a special guest here today as well, don't we, Chris?
Well, we had. She's just dropped out, and I think she's just come back into the waiting room. So I'm going to let Ruth back in. A perfect time to introduce her. So coming back in now, we have Ruth Winden, who's our guest speaker for today. Ruth, are you now with us again?
I don't know whether you can hear me. I was kicked off the call.
Yeah. We did. We can hear you, Ruth.
That's fine.
While we're waiting.
Can you hear me?
While we're waiting for that, it's also a good time to say to everybody who's watching us live right now that if you can hear us, see us, please drop us a thumbs up or put a comment in the comment section so that we know that you can hear us also as well. So Chris, you were doing a wonderful introduction to, we've already got somebody saying 30 minutes show is too short, need more time, just love it. We love you too.
We feel the same. 30 minutes way too short. So unfortunately Ruth has dropped out again. So while we're waiting for Ruth to log on, we'll start with our good news stories for the week. And again, if you're kind of watching this at home, please do feel free to drop your good news stories into the chat thread. It'd be great to kind of hear about what's been happening in the past couple of weeks for you. So Spear, while we're waiting for Ruth to come back in, what's your
good news story today is about a young girl called Leah Rubel, who was supposed to be spending her summer going and doing a fabulous internship, but obviously given the global pandemic, that all came to a crashing halt. Now, instead of sitting at home and sort of kind of, licking her wounds and feeling sorry for herself, she decided to do something really amazing. And FYI, by the way, if anybody's ever looking for, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and I get it, you turn on the news and it's all just, sometimes somewhat depressing news. So I like to subscribe to, and I will drop the link for this in the comments box later, is goodnewsnetwork.org. And so her and a few other people created this new concept called telehealth access, which is aimed at helping isolated seniors connect with doctors who are currently unable to leave their home. So what a fantastic way to spend your summer. Chris, how about yourself? What's your feel-good story for this week?
So yeah, really good question. So a few people have seen on kind of social media in the news this week that it's been the Scottish higher and GCSE results being released, and there's been quite a lot of controversy about potentially grades being adjusted downwards. The majority of the grades that have been adjusted seem to have been adjusted down, and the average by at least a grade. So there's some quite sort of troubling news there. But what's been really nice is seeing again from our kind of Scottish careers colleagues the hashtag no wrong path, which I just think is a really, really fantastic message to send about kind of non-linear careers. And also about kind of showing young people that they're more than just kind of qualification transcripts and grades. And so it's been good to see some of those messages getting shared again, which is great. Ruth was just here a second ago and has again dropped out again. So, so I think in a change.
Everyone who's watching, this is what happens when you go live and you're trying to get your internet broadband. Because I disappeared a few seconds before the show as well. So while we're sort of crossing our fingers, I'm just scrolling across. Oh, and here she comes. She's coming.
Ruth has joined us. Can you hear us, Ruth? Ruth, can you hear us okay?
Oh, here she comes with the silver fox.
We might have some live.
She's giving Philip Schofield a run for her money.
I'm here.
Okay, Ruth.
Hello, Ruth.
Brilliant.
Hello, Ruth.
You can hear us okay?
Yeah, I mean, I just got kicked off 3 times and I was on with you 15 minutes earlier. That's technology for you. I'm here.
It is indeed. See, we've been really away, and just as you were sort of waiting, there's a lot of we've got a lot of members as well saying they're seeing us, they're loving our lovely smiles. It's a good day hearing you loud and clear. Thank you, thank you. So Ruth, we just went over our feel good story, and I know you've got a really great one that you want to share with us and the members who are watching and who will also be watching later on the replay. So go right ahead and fill us in. What's your feel good story for this week, Ruth?
Okay. Oh, we seem to have got a frozen Ruth. I'll tell you what. While we're sorting out the internet issues on Ruth's end, so we'll just go through a little bit of the inverse of the show today, and start off just by going through the CDI news and the mainstream media news, and then we'll kind of come back once Ruth's got the issue sorted on her end. So, would you like to kick us off just with some of the CDI updates? Would that be okay?
That would be fantastic. And I love the fact that we are thinking on our feet and we are making sure that we give members, and I know the news roundup is something that people really look forward to. So we've got some fantastic news that's coming out of CDI. And as always, one of the main things that I am going to encourage each and every member to do is to maintain their link here in the Facebook group, but also if you're part of any of the LinkedIn groups that have been created by the CDI, then also stay connected there as well. There's a lot of different ways. Also, you have the website where every week I'm seeing new webinars, new digital bites, new sessions, particularly in the area of SEND. There's a whole new program of training and support that is coming out for SEND qualifications for school staff, and also new CDI SEND qualification for careers advisors as well. So in terms of if you're looking to up your CPD, or you're looking for new and innovative ways to add value to your knowledge base, then definitely go check out the website where you've got webinars and masterclasses, because each week there's new things that are being added. In addition to the digital theme, the CDI is continuing to roll out their digital strategy with new projects, including an easy-to-follow guide for online meetings, which will be sent to all participants of online training and meetings. And they're also working on a new digital skills assessment for members, and initially looking at a digital conference platform. It is likely that the National Careers Leaders Conference, which is to take place on the 23rd and 24th of November 2020, will be a digital conference. So how exciting that is. Continuing also with a theme that we've had running now for a couple of the shows is we want you please to still continue to lobbying your MP. And I know that some of you have had some phenomenal results as a result of taking action. And just to give you a heads up with what's happening with the CDI. So the initial letter that was sent out to Gavin Williamson gathered up to almost 1,000 signatures from our members. So well done, members, for taking action. And they're now looking to build success with another second open letter, which will be sent to the Secretary of State for Education. So again, we know that, £32 million, as Jan mentioned in the previous show, has been identified for the National Careers Service. It's a start, but we feel that more can be done. So if you haven't already contacted your local MP and lobbied your MP about making sure that career guidance is in the forefront, now is a great time to do that. Now, I always get asked, one of the questions is, how can you keep up to date with the CDI? So there are multiple ways that you can do that. You will be receiving regular updates in your inbox. So if you're not receiving emails from the CDI, please do reach out to the team. There are also the Facebook and the LinkedIn groups that are a great way. Also as well, your regional reps are out and proactive in there. And if you don't know who they are, head on over to the website, because you'll be able to see a list of who your regional rep is. And just final two things, young people are at greater risk. So the TUC offers an analysis on the ONS data, young workers at most at risk from job losses due to the coronavirus, plotting the sector where young people are employed and the impact of the pandemic by the sector. Now, all research is headed by the wonderful Lynn, and you can find that resource section again on the website. So head on over there. That's all for this week for the CDI update. Chris, how about yourself? What updates do you want to share with us while we're waiting for Ruth to join us?
Brilliant, thanks, Sabiha. Yeah, we've had sort of Ruth coming in and out, which was quite odd. So she was with us kind of pre-broadcast, and we had pretty good connectivity. So I'm not sure what's going on, but hopefully she'll be back with us in a second. So yeah, main news feed, and again, for this week, we'll make sure that we share all these news stories on the Facebook group, and we're looking for ways to perhaps collate that as well and make that a little bit easier for people to have access to moving forward. But keep an eye on the comments thread after the show today as a starting point. So as mentioned, kind of in relation to my good news story, again, one thing that's really worth looking at in the mainstream news at the moment is some of the information around the grade adjustments in Scotland, and this could be a little bit of a prelude maybe of what's to come for GCSE and A-level results day this year. In terms of kind of teachers submitting estimated grades, there's already been talk about, how many of those might be kind of downgraded. And again, the issues that might cause in terms of students and young people kind of getting on to preferred apprenticeship, college, university places. So it's really worth kind of keeping an eye on what happens and what develops over there. And a few really good related stories to that, particularly in regard to one from The Guardian, about sort of the idea of kind of middle class children and families being in a much better position to perhaps haggle for university places in clearing, depending on what happens with the grading system. So, there's some interesting stuff in there around social mobility that will probably, or almost certainly, affect us as careers professionals. So well worth keeping an eye on. On the subject of social mobility or social justice as well, there's been a call out this week on social media from Tristram Hooley, who many of you probably already know or know of. And this is because the Career Guidance for Social Justice website are currently looking for new kind of commenters or new writers to submit content for that website. So if you're interested in that, do check out Tristram's kind of Twitter handle or his LinkedIn profile and drop him a message if you're interested in contributing to that great CPD opportunity for people who want to write on career guidance, particularly in the field of social justice. So really, really good one there. And also just some quite interesting sort of labour market insights that are well worth keeping an eye on from a general kind of career professional perspective. Many of us this week will have seen the news over the last fortnight from, I think it was a BBC news story, 1,000 people in Manchester applying for a receptionist role, many of whom were kind of well-qualified professionals who'd been made redundant in other jobs. And again, we hope that that's not too much of a sign of things to come, but definitely something worth keeping an eye on. And in addition to that as well, a couple of really interesting articles, one about how recruiters have been inundated since the kind of corona pandemic, and in terms of the number of vacancies as well versus the number of applicants. And there's talk of an average now of 8 applicants per vacancy that's out there. And then equally, another really interesting article shared by Tristram Hooley on the Prospects website. And this was all about how the global labour market is faring alongside the UK labour market. And this is something, again, that shows that actually there's quite a lot of similarities. So that's our news for this week. We'll share the news stories, but I'm really pleased to announce that Ruth is back with us. So Ruth, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. I can see you. Let's pray that somehow. I've never had this before. It had to happen today, so I apologise.
Of course,
Brilliant. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining us today, Ruth. Could you just start off then with a little bit of an introduction for those who don't know you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work, and then, as Sabiha said, maybe your good news story for this week as well?
Yeah. So if you don't know me, I'm Ruth Winden, and I've been with CDI from the very, very, very early days. And before that, I'd already been in the careers industry for 15 years. So I'm aging myself here, but I'm one of these people who get very stuck in with the CDI. I've sat on the professional standards committee for 5 years, representing the independent career coaches. And I'm involved in a lot of different activities. You might have come across me. I did some of the digital bites. I've done some masterclasses on LinkedIn. And today I'm here to talk about older workers. And that's really my big passion. And I fell into this about 5 years ago when more and more of my clients over 50 came to me and said, look, we've got huge issues. I've never had this before. I don't know what to do. I'm being made redundant. I struggle to get back into work. What's going on? It was never an issue before. And now I'm over 50 and suddenly it's becoming really difficult. What can you do to help us? And I realized, there are a lot of people out there who are really struggling. And I'm very passionate about it because I think I'm all for lifelong career development and lifelong career management, and also making a contribution to society for, as long as we want and can. And let's recognize, what older workers have to give. So I've got a few things for you to think about in terms of COVID-19 and the effect it's had on, on older workers. And my good news story was last week, I had the shock of my life when Boris Johnson announced that anyone over 50 would be asked to stay at home. And I am over 50. And I thought, hang on a minute. This means millions of us are not allowed to go out, work, contribute. And I was getting really worried about it. And then I was delighted when I heard it was the U-turn, because there was so much protest and anger, and they stopped the idea. And I was just joking with Chris and Sabiha before we came on live that this would mean half the cabinet would have been out of work as well, or not out of work, but working from home. So, and that is just the times we live in, isn't it? Who would have thought that one day anyone over 50 would have been asked to stay at home and don't come into the workplace? So, these are the challenges we're facing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Oh, well, Ruth, you've done a fantastic introduction. And for anyone that hadn't already known you at this point, I'm sure by hearing your journey and your experience and your involvement with the CDI and beyond within the sector as well, there will be so much value and resonance there with the work that you do. And, we were really keen when we were sort of putting together sort of the themes for the various different shows, that this was something that came up time and time again from members where they were interested of learning about, because, often, it can appear as, and even from a government perspective, it can appear as if the focus is being put on young people, and rightly so. Young people do need resources, and somebody who works with young people, it's always great for me to hear about any sort of initiatives, resources that are going and being put forward for that particular generation. However, as somebody who is also getting older and perhaps maybe not quite yet approaching 50 yet, but it's also important to know, what does the career journey look like for mature workers? And that is why we wanted to explore this in today's show, about what is the impact for mature workers. And one of the things I know that we were talking about, and I know I've spoken to others also, where workers, some workers, mature workers, have felt discriminated against as being less healthy because they are older, and there are concerns from employers. So I'd love to hear what any anecdotal stories or case studies that you have had, that you are seeing, because you're the one that's in the trenches right now, working with these mature workers. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And what solutions can we have for those people who are experiencing this, particularly for those members who are working with mature workers and want to help them transition through this difficult stage, Ruth?
Yeah, and I think I want to start by saying this is not about either support for young people or older people. We all deserve support, and I'm delighted how much effort there is in helping young people get onto the career ladder, get apprenticeships, get jobs. That's absolutely crucial. At the same time, I feel very strongly, older workers, if you're over 50 or 55 or 58 or 62, you don't have another 30, 40 years ahead of you where you can make up the shortfall. And so the issue we're having at the moment is, COVID-19 has obviously created a lot of, not just health issues, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it's also, a lot of anxiety about, redundancy, unemployment, loss of income, loss of pension income, and those over 50, we're looking at how many years have we actually got left to make up for the shortfall. And so I want to start with health, and the health issue is obviously something that, has had a massive impact, because we know that the older population and those with underlying health conditions are more at danger of, getting seriously ill with COVID-19. And so what that has really done is, first of all, obviously taken us out of the workplace like everyone. And now the discussion is, who is going back into the workplace? So that's number one. The issue is, for employees, am I actually taking the risk to go back into the workplace if I can't work from home? That's number one. For employers, it is the risk, are we letting our older workforce coming back in because we have a duty of care, and what do we do to protect these people, or what do we do if we can't protect them? There's real issues. And then there's another element here in terms of, it's really had a psychological impact on people. A lot of my clients are saying, I'm a lot more wary. Do I really want to risk going now back into these opportunities? And then there is the whole discrimination we obviously now face in terms of, we know in a recession, older workers are very often the first to go and the last to come back into work again. And I've read a lot about it, and I've seen a lot of anecdotal evidence from my clients. I've had a shockingly high number of clients come to me who have been made redundant and were actually told that age played a role, which is illegal, but no one feels like they can actually take any action because it's too expensive, too stressful. They don't feel in the position that they can take action. So there is a lot happening as COVID-19 as a result, where there seems to be a trend also that some organizations, I'm not saying everyone, but some organizations also using COVID-19 as an opportunity to basically make people redundant, not because of a lack of performance, because of an age, and maybe because they have reached, a higher salary level, and they want to replace that with younger people. And that is obviously something that I find totally unacceptable, and something that we have to help our clients overcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth. We've just lost Sabiha momentarily, but it seems to be a bad
day today, isn't it?
bad internet day. Bad internet day all round, but I'm sure she'll return. But no, thank you. I think it's really, really interesting to hear that. And I think, as you said there, there's obviously then a lot of support that mature workers will need from a kind of careers and employability perspective. And I think this was kind of something else I know that you wanted to touch on, because I think sometimes, Sabiha sort of alluded to it earlier that, there'd be a lot of focus on kind of young people when it comes to career support. Arguably, it's a lot easier to some extent for young people to see that career support because it's, it's kind of not quite shoved down their throat, but perhaps made a little bit more obvious in some schools and colleges and particularly universities where, it might, it's kind of maybe a key part of the professional services offer as well. So I think from that perspective, it would be interesting to kind of hear, I guess, from your experience, maybe how easy or difficult it is for kind of mature workers to access that support or feel they know where to access it. And are there kind of particular elements of employability support that perhaps mature workers need more so than younger people?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
way,
I think one of the additional layers of work, of working with older workers, which I personally really enjoy. There she is, Sabiha is back. Is that they obviously have life stories. They have complex, backgrounds. They offer a lot. But they also have aspirations. I find it fascinating. We talk a lot about aspirations with young people, and when people come to their 50s, we all assume that they just want to have an easy life and and get to retirement age, and that is so far from the truth. I mean, I talk a lot about aspirations with clients, and because when we think about it, when you look at young people, let's say 18 to 40, that's what we often think, isn't it? So that's a big careers years, where you grow your career and you make an impact, and these 20 years are crucial. But when you look at it from the early 50s to the early 70s, which is how most of us will have to work, if not longer, that's exactly the same amount of years. It's 2 decades. And so my clients have often, 30 years work experience, lots of diverse experience. And now they say, Ruth, okay, the writing is on the wall, or I've just been made redundant, but I want to do things. And now is the time where I really want to make an impact. And other people are not in that luxurious position where they can think that. They say, look, I've got a mortgage, or I've got grandchildren, or I've got caring responsibilities, or my pension is very low, I can't afford to retire, but what do I do? Because I can't get back into the labor market. So it's a hugely diverse and complex cohort of wonderful individuals when we talk about older workers. And I think they do struggle a little bit with access because, it's not necessarily, they don't get the same attention. They might not be aware of what's out there because, over the last 10 years, adult education has been decimated. There are not that many places, the libraries, the social services, the community halls where they might have found out about things. So it's a big issue, I think, is access. A big issue is funding. Not everyone is in the position to pay for career support themselves. My client base I work mainly with professionals, so, they can afford it, but I'm very aware not everyone can. So where do they go? And there are obviously new things like, some companies have done fantastic, work in this area, deliberately recognizing the value of older workers. And we were, before COVID, really going into the right direction. The Avivas, the Barclays, the Co-ops of this world, a lot of bigger organizations that said, we recognize, what older workers bring, and it's in our interest to have people with maturity, with skills, also with knowledge of organizations that younger people don't have because they haven't been there long enough. They have a lot of knowledge and maturity and expertise, and
Ruth?
so
Sorry, I was just going to say, speaking of, because there's some really great valid points that you've made there.
Yeah.
In particular, I'm going to come back to one of the points that you talked about, accessibility.
Yeah.
And we had a really fantastic question, and I want to give a shout out firstly to one of our members, Lisa LaRue. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
She's not watching us live, but she's going to do the replay later because she's out having birthday lunch. So we'll let
in Paris,
her off,
as you do.
But she had a great question, which is, to be fair, when you talk about accessibility as an external thing, what if accessibility is an internal dialogue? And her question was, what are the strategies that you can give to older, mature workers when the accessibility question is tackling self-limiting beliefs, where you are talking to yourself and convincing yourself that, well, no one will hire me because I'm too old, no one will hire me because I'm not good enough, or, you know, I'm not young enough, and, you know, all these self-limiting beliefs where we, you know, where we limit ourselves. So what do you have, you know, how would you respond to that question? What advice would you have there, Ruth?
Yeah, I mean, and I come across this all the time, you know, I mean, everyone who's looking for work, you know, suffers from a lack of confidence because when you've been rejected, you know, but I think with older workers, you know, we really cotton on to the perception. We know there's ageism out there, but if we completely believe in it and believe we have no chance, it will show up the way we present ourselves, you know, on paper or on LinkedIn or at interview. And so I do a lot of work with my clients, really getting them into this space, helping them recognize what are their strengths, what is their expertise. And we do this with simple exercise. So we all know as career professionals, I use car stories with my clients a lot. I want them to see, you know, what impact have you made? You know, what challenges have you overcome? I help them recognize their skills, you know, and it is a process that takes a bit of time because you really need to help them recognize the breadth of their expertise. And right now, I also think it's helping them recognize the inner strength. Older workers have already gone through, you know, 9/11, when the world suddenly from one day to the next seemed like everyone was falling apart, you know, and you know, they went through that. They managed the process. They stayed in work or found work again. Big recession, 2008, 2009. Again, you know, a lot of older workers have seen huge economic turbulence, and they have somehow managed themselves through, but also their work, their colleagues, their teams, depending on their positions. And it's really important that we recognize that, because especially now with COVID-19, what matters is how you deal with ambiguity, you know, how do you lead, how do you manage the people around you, how do you manage yourself? And older workers, because we've been around a bit longer, you know, we have gone through these experiences, and it's helping people recognize what they've got. Older workers tend often to, you know, they tend to focus on what they haven't got. But we have a lot, you know, we can learn so much from younger people, and younger people can learn from us, but we bring slightly different things, and we need to help them articulate that. And I think, you know, Lisa, also,
I love that, Ruth. I love how you're talking about, it's about the storytelling. It's about how
it's a storytelling. Absolutely.
Right? It's the storytelling that you're saying. Yeah. And you know what, Ruth, I love, and I know that Chris and I could sit here and listen to you talking about, you know, the amazing tools and resources that you have, but I'm looking at the time and I'm already, you know, seeing that we've already hit sort of the 12:30, and I know we started off a few minutes early, but we value everyone's time, and we try to sort of jam pack as much as we sort of possibly can within these sort of, you know, short 30-minute session. So I'm going to, you know, I know we want to do a summary of the topic point that we've sort of discussed here. So, Chris, I know that you wanted to sort of bring in some final words and you know, draw points. And I know there's a whole host of resources that Ruth has so wonderfully and kindly put together for us that we can all access as well after the show as well. So, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Sabiha. Yeah, I think what's really interesting is, you know, there seem to be a couple of comments there about, you know, perhaps the show being too short. So, I mean, if you do feel we could use extra time on any of these topics, do let us know in the comments, because I think, you know, it could be something we look at, as we do always seem to find it a struggle to fit things in with so much good content to talk about. I think Ruth's made some, you know, you made some brilliant points there, particularly around, I think, there's always a lot of focus on upskilling, reskilling, and as you've said, actually, you know, mature workers having a huge amount to offer, and that idea of perhaps actually it's the value that they can bring to an organization, rather than this idea, oh, you must reskill to be of any value to someone. So I think it's great to hear that. And some really good stuff around narrative and career storytelling. I think, just, I suppose, to kind of conclude things and summarize things really from your perspective, Ruth, what do you feel kind of we as sort of career professionals then can do when we're working with mature clients in order to kind of help them navigate this current situation, current climate, in a way that you've said is kind of more of a sort of positive, I guess, having some agency, as opposed to sort of feeling as though you've really got no control over the situation that's happening?
Yeah. And I think what's really important is that we help our clients articulate the value that they add, and they all add value in their different ways, you know. So focus on what you've got to offer and how that makes a difference to future employers. I think the other thing for me is really helping them. Some of them have been out of work haven't applied for anything for years. and they feel really intimidated because the world of work has changed. The way you apply for things has changed, and they need help. And it's really practical, helping them recognizing their strengths, their contributions, their achievements, but also simple things like there's a lot of prejudice like, oh, older workers don't have any digital skills. Just look at COVID. We're all working from home. We're all mastering all sorts of technologies. We're all fighting the internet. We connect with people online. We lead teams or colleagues, or don't take it for granted. And prove on LinkedIn you're media savvy. They can do these things. It's not about ability. It's often that they haven't learned it or haven't been forced to do it. And we as career guidance professionals or career coaches must help them with that, because it can make a difference. And then it's about helping them really embrace the interview. How do you present yourself? How do you engage with employers? And it's a confidence thing. And I think anyone at any stage is confidence.
There's so much resonance happening in the chat group right now, because there's a member that's just spoken about really excellent points about recognizing turbulence. We've already been through it, thank you, right? Yes. Which is the point that you were making earlier. And we're getting a few shows about how they want this session to be at least 45 minutes to an hour. We will definitely explore this. And then we've got one member that's saying, lovely to hear someone sticking up for us older people. Thank you, Ruth.
It's my motto, Sabiha, so how can I not stick up for
Exactly. And that's a great thing, actually, Ruth. So if people want to hear from more about the work that you are doing, where can they go? Where can they find you? What's happening? What's coming up with you over the next few weeks and months?
So you can always find me on Twitter on my hashtag. My handle is older yet bolder. That's also my website. I'm on LinkedIn, really active. And just reach out to me on email. And I'm pulling together some resources for COVID-19 that I'm really happy to share. So very practical things, strategies that I use with my clients that are really hands-on. And it will be like a tip sheet. I'm working on it right now, a downloadable PDF, and get in touch with me. And I'm very happy to share that, because I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about young people. I'm passionate about old people. I want everyone to have fulfilling careers and also make a contribution to society, because they have so much to give, and we're not done only because we're 56 or 57, 58. Some people look at, and the last thing I want to say is Dick Bowles, who hasn't read, What Color's Your Parachute? Dick was still working when he was 90. He died sadly a few weeks after he turned 90, but he was working on several things at the age of 89, and he is really my role model. I want to keep going until, there's so much to do for us, so much difference to make. So let's look at some positive role models, ahead of us.
Excellent. Oh, Ruth, honestly, I'm just sorry. I'm just looking at one of the comments that someone just put, and I apologize because I know I haven't had a chance to get through all the comments today. But I promise you we will come back to it later. And that was that one of the members said, older yet bolder. Brilliant. Love it. And one more of us, and somebody's touched upon the fact that they wanted they were running evening classes for adult education in the community, but the funding vanished, which is something that Ruth, you spoke about as well. So we've had a really fantastic, I know we've had technical issues, so we really are grateful and thankful not only to our fantastic guest today, Ruth Winden, for bearing with us and sticking through. Look, see, perseverance. Now, you could say that somebody lesser than yourself may have just quit and gone, well, couldn't get back on. Thank you very much. But you persevered, and that is what I believe that comes with age and maturity and wisdom.
And I need to bust the myth that older workers don't have digital skills, because it's far from it.
and you figured it out, and when a problem encountered, you got back on there. So within the show, we showed just how we can resourceful and persistent mature workers can be within the workplace, and the value that people can bring. And I want to say thank you also to the members who are watching live, but also as well to the members who I know who've been messaging both myself and Chris to say that they're going to be joining us. So I think people like Rosemary, Yvonne Owen, Carolyn, Catherine Jennick for promoting us. And, we know you've got things to do, so you'll be fortunate to know that the replay will be available. And someone's still saying this show is the good news show for me. Such good energy. Thanks, and keeping up the good work. Thank you so much. We are happy that we have brought a ray of sunshine on a Wednesday. Well, for me anyway, it's a very dreary Wednesday afternoon. So, Chris, any final thoughts that you want to share as we wrap this up?
No, absolutely. Just to say again, thank you to Ruth for joining us today. Thank you for all the members who've been watching us again. Any comments, any questions to add on there, please put them on there. We'll certainly consider the comments about a longer show. I think, if we have the time available, we're definitely keen. As you can tell, we could talk for any number of hours, so I think it's definitely something we'll consider. And just a quick reminder again, that any of the links that we've been speaking about, the resources that Ruth's mentioned, we're going to be putting those together probably into a Google Doc this time, make it a little bit easier, and then we'll put it in the comment thread so that you guys can have a look through all of that. And there's some really, really useful stuff in there. So keep an eye on the comment thread. Let us know if you've got any follow-up questions. And yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Till next time. Till next time. Bye-bye.